I shot a music video with this camera, the Fuji GFX 102, and it was awesome. In this review, we're going to dive deep into the GFX 102's abilities as a cinema camera, and I'm going to show you just how we use this camera to shoot this awesome music video with New York pop singer Lex. As a filmmaker and a cinematographer, I feel like I've been a pretty staunch Sony supporter over the last 8 years. But recently I've seen one specific camera keep popping up in the feeds of all of these cinematographers that I follow. And the footage I've seen from this camera has been just incredible. And that camera is the Fuji GFX 102. But I never considered using a Fuji camera for any of my cinematic work, ever. But the stuff I've seen from the GFX 102 is just so awesome that I had to try it for myself. I really wanted to put it to the test in a practical, working, cinematic environment. So we teamed up with pop singer Lex and her team to shoot a music video for her new song, Sacred Heart, all on the Fujifilm GFX 102. And I gotta say, just like a blanket statement here after using this camera, it is awesome. So before we get too much into how we shot the music video and our setup and everything like that, I want to just run down kind of the general specs for the GFX 102. And the first thing I want to call out is that this camera is a hybrid camera, which at first was a little bit of a concern for me because it's not specifically designed for cinematography. And usually that can be kind of hit or miss. But, honestly, I feel like it performed better than any hybrid camera I've ever used before. So the big draw for a camera like the GFX 102 is that gorgeous medium format sensor. Just so sexy, too hot for MPB. So essentially medium format sensors are larger than full frame sensors. They allow for superior light capture and technically enhanced image detail, as well as a shallower depth of field. And personally, I really like the look of full frame sensors with a wide angle lens on them. I like being right there with somebody. I like this kind of space on a 24 millimeter or a 35 millimeter. So the idea of using wider lenses on a medium format sensor was exciting to me because it feels kind of like amplifying that aesthetic a little bit. The other really impressive thing about the GFX 102 is that it has internal ProRes recording, which is super impressive, and it can record up to 8K, which is crazy. To record ProRes internally, you're going to need one of these bad boys, a CF Express Type B memory card. But there are other options you can choose from, like H.265 and H.264. You can also record Apple ProRes RAW and Blackmagic RAW externally to an external recorder through the camera's full HDMI port. But I normally only ever really shoot in 4K, so instead of having these giant 8K files, we stuck to mainly shooting 4K and ProRes in 24 frames per second and 60 frames per second. For lenses, we just used a collection of GF lenses that we had in stock here at MPB. And I thought this was a good choice because instead of using big expensive like Cine Glass or anything like that, I wanted to use lenses that are more accessible and honestly lenses that were made for this camera. So there is no chance of any vignetting on that medium format sensor. But the surprising thing to me about these lenses was that they were all a little slow and they were all maxing out at about f2.8 or f4. But there was some compensation to account for. Because the GFX 102 has a medium format sensor, a 45mm lens is going to feel more like a full frame 36mm, and the f-stop may feel more like f2.2 instead of f2.8. Taking this all into consideration, I wasn't too concerned about filming in this interior dark studio space. But I still had to bump up the ISO in certain situations or work with our gaffer to compensate with lighting setups. But for as much as I pushed the ISO limits, I didn't see any visibly distracting grain. For build, this sort of changed around each setup, but the main build was a shoulder mount with an external battery to power both the camera and the monitor. So the camera's built-in LCD monitor is pretty cool. It doesn't flip out. It's not fully articulating. It does like this thing, which is fine. But what is really cool is the viewfinder. I actually really liked using the viewfinder whenever I could. But if you don't want to use the viewfinder, the thing pops off just like that, which is Really cool. Also good if you have like a big build on and you don't have room for the viewfinder, or if the viewfinder is like obstructing something, or if you need to use this hot shoe mount here for something else. I wanted to see how this thing performed in various builds, so when fully suited up, it was pretty heavy, and I needed to employ an easy rig so I didn't die. It also helped with stabilization, even though honestly, I didn't need much help there. The camera's 5-axis sensor shift image stabilization was almost too smooth for some shots, but I guess that's a good problem to have. So for our first setup, our director Alexa had a few different characters in this bedroom scene. They all experienced personal challenges with identity and self-expression, but are then bathed in this warm light that translates to hope and confidence. So we had the camera in the full shoulder rig setup, and we filmed these characters in these dimly lit scenes to really emphasize the emotion and the change when the warm light comes in. This is where I feel like I was most worried in terms of how the camera was going to perform in low light. But I really think the power of the medium format sensor, the camera's low light capabilities, and even just the lenses that we were using really got the job done. For our second setup, we have this awesome rain room going where we had our characters standing in the middle of this shower and really feeling the emotion of the moment as the music swells. It was the same shoulder rig setup, but I wasn't as close to the characters here. For our third setup, this time with Lex singing to camera, we had her backlit with this really cool hazy look, and she had this awesome outfit on that allowed for light to sort of like peek through into the camera or directly into the lens, and it was just a really fun, cool looking setup. But to give it even more of that hazy vintage feel, our gaffer Michael and our director Alexa suggested something that I've never done before, which is to put a stocking or pantyhose over the front of the lens. And it worked great. I really loved how it looked. So thanks for that one, Michael and Alexa. For our fourth and final setup, the build had to change a lot, but this is where the beauty of the camera's versatility really shows off. Our director wanted this really cool overhead shot of Lex while she's on the ground in the dirt, like singing directly to camera. So to do that, we stripped the camera completely down, except for the cage that we had on it, and we attached it to a boom arm and we hung it directly over Lex as she was on the ground, sort of like writhing and like singing to camera, and it was really cool. This would be a lot harder to do with a heavier, more expensive cine camera, but a job well done for the GFX 102. I also made use of the camera's incredible autofocus for this shot specifically. It tracked Lex's eyes as she moved forward and away from the lens, keeping that shallow depth of field and removing the need for me to pull focus remotely. When it came time for close-ups, I just grabbed the camera and went handheld, which also worked out great. So this really just goes to show the advantage you're at when you use a camera like the GFX 102, this smaller, hybrid, versatile camera. You can put it in small spaces, you can go handheld, you can put it on a boom arm, you can suit it up and put it on your shoulder. It can take all these different forms and give you this incredible image either way. So like, I thought that was pretty cool. For post-production and working with the footage from this camera, I'm gonna hand it over to our director and editor, Alexa.
My name is Alexa San Ramon, and I am the director and editor of the Sacred Heart music video for Lex. The files from the GFX I found to be obnoxiously large. So when I was editing this, I was definitely using proxies. Since I'm not like a colorist by trade, I'm definitely really happy with the footage that I got from the GFX because it was super beginner friendly, I guess. I found the footage that is just raw from the camera with just a LUT on it is already looking just so incredible, so cinematic, that there's only a little bit of tweaking necessary for me to be able to achieve a true cinematic look. Generally, when I'm shooting music videos, I like to shoot them in 60 frames per second because I love the versatility of being able to decide when I can slow down my footage or when I want to be in real time. When I look back at the footage, everything just looks so crisp and so glidey. I mean, it was pretty much exactly what I was hoping it would be. I think my favorite shot is definitely Lex in the dirt. It's the hair, it's the makeup, it's the outfit, it's the lighting, it's the camera. I would absolutely recommend this camera for videos, cinematic productions for sure. I mean, it definitely made everything more elevated. Everything is crisp. Everything looks great. I feel super, super happy with how everything came out. So highly recommend for sure.
We also had stills taken on set by our photographer, Samantha. For a more in-depth review of the GFX 102's still photo capabilities, you can check out this video on MPB's YouTube channel. So at the end of the day, the GFX 102 really impressed me. Like I said, I never dreamed of using a Fuji camera in a cine environment, so I was a little skeptical, but it totally proved me wrong. It was an awesome experience. The camera is beautiful. The footage I'm just super happy with. And yeah, the price for the GFX 102 new is definitely a little up there, especially when you compare it to cameras like the Sony FX3 or the Canon R5C. But it's safe to say you'll get a better deal if you buy it used at MPB. And look, I'm seriously considering investing in one myself, especially since hearing that Fuji is going to release their first cine camera soon, which is going to have a lot of the same technology as the GFX 102. So I'm very excited about that as well. But I'd really love to hear your thoughts on the GFX 102. Have you used it? What do you think of it? What do you think of the footage that we got with it? Let us know in the comments. I'm Justin with MPB. Thanks for watching.